proceedings this morning, and prosecutors are expected to conclude their case today after President Biden addresses if he will pardon his son if convicted.
Brooke Singman here with all the details. Hey, Brooke.
Hey, guys. Yeah, the prosecution has two witnesses left before they're expected to conclude their case. Then it's up to the defense to present any of their witnesses. One name being floated here is James Biden, Hunter's uncle, who assisted him through his rehab stints. Just this week, House Republicans issued criminal referrals to the DOJ for both James and Hunter Biden for allegedly lying to Congress in their depositions earlier this year as part of the impeachment inquiry of President Biden. But the president made it very clear on where he stands on a pardon for his son if he's convicted. Listen.
As we sit here in Normandy, your son Hunter is on trial, and I know that you cannot speak about an ongoing federal prosecution. But let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
Hallie Biden, the widow of Hunter's brother Beau Biden and Hunter's former lover, testified yesterday, indicating she thought Hunter may have been on drugs around the time of the gun purchase. Hallie saying she and Hunter were romantically involved from late 2015 through 2016. She said Hunter gave her crack cocaine in June 2018 during a trip to Los Angeles. That's when her struggle with drugs began. She also says in October 2018, while cleaning out Hunter's car, she found remnants of crack cocaine and the gun. Surveillance video captured Hallie Biden disposing of the firearm outside of a grocery store. The weapon was later found in a bag with cocaine residue by Edward Banner, who also testified and placed it into a sock before handing it to police. Prosecutors then pulled the actual gun out in court, and Hallie said it looked very similar to the gun she had tossed into the trash can. The weapon was found in a bag with cocaine residue. Now, today, the prosecution is expected to call two final witnesses, an FBI chemist and a DEA drug expert. The First Lady will be back in Wilmington, Delaware today, but it's not confirmed if she will be in court.
You can look in the jury box. A jury box of this nature, maybe a simple jury box, but if you look through it closely, you don't know what your child may be hiding. For instance, a gun. Behind a picture frame, you can find bullets. You should always, when your child brings in his popular knapsack with many different locations, look through it to see something simple as a crack pipe. Something simple as a baby doll could be a place where you can secrete or hide drugs. Like a pillow like this with a button is a perfect invitation to hide something. And I felt something bumpy. I would reach in, see what it is. Just look and see what's inside your bookcases. It could be more than just books. Perfect place to hide cocaine.
Come see me in the White House. Thank you.
See me at the White House, says Joe Biden to Eric Adams, actually, in that famous video clip. Because Joe Biden has some cocaine to hide at the White House. Joe Biden has so many little baggies of cocaine. We always talk about the cocaine at the White House as a joke because I guess we are living inside of clown world right now. But it's important to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that there were 3 baggies of cocaine found at the White House in different rooms. Who's stashing bags of cocaine and for what purpose in different rooms right before the 4th of July holiday? It's like somebody was getting their stashes on. And most importantly, not trying to go on a rant here, we have a whole show for that, but they have the DNA tests. In Quantico, Virginia, where the FBI's laboratory is, they have DNA samples of whose cocaine it is. Do you know that? I mean, it's just worth taking a second here and saying the federal government knows whose cocaine was in the White House. There's DNA samples from in the baggies, from all over it. They're hiding it from you. And who are they protecting and why? And this is why we have to vote Donald Trump into office. We have to release this information to the American people. We don't live in a republic if we don't. We live in something else. If we, the American people, don't have the right to know who's doing coke, who's doing like ripping massive lines off the bust of Teddy Roosevelt in the green room of the White House on our tax dollar in our home, the home of the people's house, like then we don't have a republic, right? Like what do we have here? It's not a republic. It's something. We got to know. We got to know. And then we should prosecute those people. We should prosecute them today, Friday, June 7th, 2024. Joe Biden said he will not pardon his son if his son is found guilty of gun crimes in a scowling, glaring, weird old Muppet Man moment, ladies and gentlemen. Footage released of Hallie Biden throwing Hunter's gun in a trash can. So, they did it. There's more evidence now against, like, to put Hunter Biden in prison for the rest of his life than there has ever been to put Donald Trump in jail for a single scintilla of a second. Talking about it, ladies and gentlemen, today with us will be a Donald Trump vice presidential finalist, as many would call it these days, somebody who just got paperwork from the Trump campaign to say, we are now officially vetting you, the great Senator Marco Rubio on the program today. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. We hope that this week, whilst we did have to take one day off due to the sickness, okay? Down with the sickness. Again, I think it was planned. I think Fauci released a special virus just for us here in the studio. We don't know. We're not sure. But ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've enjoyed our broadcast this week. We hope that you've tuned in over your Patriot Mobile device because, well, that's how we watch the internet. We watch them on our Patriot Mobile device, our multiples in the studio here. We make sure that we are present and that we are connected at all times via Patriot Mobile, and Patriot Mobile keeps this show up and running on the road. And we will be on the road. We'll be with President Trump next weekend in Detroit. We're going to be at the RNC convention the month after that. And we're going to have a lot of rocking and rolling in between. Patriot Mobile will be at our back and at the sort of backbone of how this company stays connected the entire time. Their 100% US-based customer service keeps us online with the most reliable network out there. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny, call 972-PATRIOT, get free activation when you use the offer code Benny. Join me and make the switch today, patriotmobile.com/Benny. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Hunter Biden trial is back at it. And the defense, the defense, which kicks up and kicks off next week, the defense of Hunter Biden, if there is such a thing, I don't think there is, the prosecution of Hunter Biden may well rest today, which many are saying is a very, very good sign that they have been able to effectively. Oh, they did rest, says executive producer ALX. Okay, so the defense has rested literally minutes ago at time of recording. And so the prosecution in Hunter Biden trial rests its case. There we go, pinned just minutes ago as we were going live. Federal prosecutors wrapped up their gun case against Hunter Biden on Friday. They called two final witnesses in their efforts to prove that the president's son lied on a mandatory gun purchase form. He said was not illegally used or addicted to drugs. The witnesses were an FBI forensic chemist, Jason Brewer, who tested a residue found on the leather pouch that contained Hunter Biden's gun. It came back positive for cocaine. Though the amount was minimal, he told jurors, "Oh, okay, well, is there a minimal amount of cocaine? Are you allowed like a minimal amount of cocaine? If the cops go search your car, if your wife catches you in the garage with a, like, are you allowed a minute? I don't get, you're either on cocaine or you're not. The federal NICS form, and I love my firearms. Are you with me? I love my firearms. I filled out a bunch of these forms. There's probably a lot of federal forms that I don't know much about, but these ones I do. And the form itself doesn't say, are you on just a little cocaine? If you're on a little cocaine, you can buy the firearm. The form is very explicit. Are you on any cocaine? There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. Perfect timing. There's the actual question itself. Are you on any mainline narcotic? That's what the form says. Not are you on just a little bit, just a teeny bit, just smooth, just a little bit, but no. It says, are you on any of these substances? And Hunter Biden said no. And so the FBI forensic chemists, those same FBI forensic chemists that live in Quantico, Virginia, that have the DNA sample from the little baggie of cocaine that was found at the White House, those guys, yeah, they say that the cocaine that was found on Hunter Biden's gun, which, by the way, like, let's take a step back. like I try and keep my firearms meticulous and clean, and I clean them regularly. And I mean, I don't know what's the right way to say it. Like, they shouldn't be dirty. You shouldn't have them. If you take them out to the range, you get some dust and stuff up in them. You know, that kind of stuff can actually lead to a like terminal malfunction in the firearm when you need it. So, what kind of a person are you if you're like sprinkling cocaine on your gun? You take a step back. What kind of a person are you if you're sprinkling cocaine on anything? It's like a Dave Chappelle episode. It was like, sprinkle some crack on him. Ha ha ha. Right? It's like a joke. It's like cops sprinkle crack on the guy, and then we framed him for a crime. How much cocaine are you doing if you're kind of like getting it everywhere? This is like the cooking scene, like the chef in The Little Mermaid, right? You know, poof, pow, poof, like pow, baking powder everywhere, cocaine just everywhere, all over your gun. How much cocaine are you doing if it's sprinkled all over everything? I guess the question is, what didn't have cocaine residue on it in Hunter Biden's life? A Drug Enforcement Administration agent also testified about text messages Hunter Biden sent to alleged dealers. Oh man, they're okay. Their testimony capped a week that has been largely dedicated to highlighting the seriousness of Hunter Biden's drug problem, though highly personal and often revealing testimony. Defense attorneys may now call witnesses. Got it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there's our update. And of course, all the news is showing sort of a crazy reveal of how debauched this family truly is. How truly sunken are these people? Well, here we go. Let's just scroll right down to the next one there, Klein. Jill Biden arrives at court in Delaware after 3,500-mile dash from France. First Lady's making a whirlwind trip. She was in France for the D-Day events where Joe Biden dropped the first bombs on Normandy in 80 years. If you know, you know. It's a Babylon Bee headline. Joe Biden apparently caught with his pants down yesterday. A super creepy moment where he just like popped a squat on the stage in the middle of the D-Day ceremony. Nobody was quite sure like what the hell was going on. Today, she's in court in Delaware. On Saturday, she'll be back in France for a state dinner. In all, she'll be making a 7,000-mile round trip to spend one day in court. These are the people that talk about how we have to cut down on jet travel, how we have to stop all jet travel because of the environment. Jill Biden is going to light the corpses of all of Jurassic Park on fire in order to get her Alice Cooper ass back into the courthouse for what exactly? That's the question here. What is Jill Biden doing as like this sort of looming maniacal presence in this courtroom? What are they doing? I'll tell you exactly what they're doing. It's a mafia tactic. You ever seen The Godfather 2? It's a mafia tactic. This is a crime family tactic. This is what experts and people who've spoken to us when we asked about this, like this is a very strange thing. What's going on here? Well, Jill Biden is effectively acting as a member of the first family, right? First lady, as a presence with the Secret Service, right? And all the security now that's required when a member of the first family is in a room. Jill Biden is there as like an ever-present force saying we are in control of this country. Like, remember that if you rule against Hunter Biden, you rule against us. This is why this trip is so important. This is why they're sending Jill Biden back into the courthouse. It is a tour de force. It is a manipulation technique. And it is a leverage technique for a crime family. That's what's going on here. This is what's going on here. So Jill the babysitter continues as the babysitter, ladies and gentlemen, of Hunter Biden, even though he's 55 years old. Incredible. So we now look to presumably what the defense could possibly be of Hunter Biden in the court. What did we miss on Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, as we spent the day, I think very rightfully so, describing what was going on in France, what Joe Biden was doing to humiliate and desecrate the living memories of the Americans, living and dead, who gave their lives there. On day 4 of Hunter Biden's federal gun trial, it centered on how Hallie Biden found his firearm and threw it out in a nearby grocery store, how the police tracked the weapon down after it was found by a retiree. Video also showed of Hallie disposing the gun. We'll show you that video in just a second. Hallie, who is the widow of Hunter Biden's dead brother, testified Thursday about her romantic relationship with Hunter, the couple's drug use, and finding the gun. Once Hallie Biden left the stand, a trio of witnesses testified about the series of events that led police to recovering the ditched weapon. They include a Delaware police officer, Joshua Marley, who responded to Hallie Biden's call notifying the police that she had thrown away a gun in a nearby grocery store. Marley testified that he reviewed security video and searched the trash cans of the store. He didn't find the weapon. He interviewed Hunter Biden as part of the case. The former state trooper, Millard Greer, who described tracking down the man, collected recyclables from the store, and found the gun. When Greer approached the man, he handed over the weapon, ammunition, and a speed loader, all of which Hunter Biden purchased. The 80-year-old who found the gun, Edward Banner, who said he'd been collecting recyclables from the trash can since he retired, how he recovered the weapon. He also testified that no one in his home uses cocaine. This was relevant because the prosecutor said the FBI investigators found cocaine residue on the pouch of the gun. Whew, man. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we begin with some of our breaking news from the trial. Joe Biden being interviewed yesterday in a very grouchy, very frowny, very grumpy way, being asked whether he's going to pardon his son. Let's go.
As we sit here in Normandy, your son Hunter is on trial, and I know that you cannot speak about an ongoing federal prosecution. But let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a puppet. It's like a comedian that has like a puppet of an old man. I can't remember. This guy's name, Jeff something. Yeah. Jeff with the D. And he has like the puppet, and it's Joe Biden. And Jerry, I'm gonna need Jeff Dunham. I'm gonna need like a side-by-side of Joe Biden in that interview with the puppet, because it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And we've called Joe Biden a puppet, and it's nice to just prove these things every once in a while. It's nice to just like sort of be able to like put a pin in it and be like, oh yeah, it's like a literal puppet. This is like the puppet on stage, which Joe Biden's being trotted out today. It's number 7. All right, so this was maybe the reason Joe Biden was frowning. I do want to give you sort of a reminder that Joe Biden either crapped himself on stage or was just having extra dementia that day as he reached for a chair that wasn't there and made a strange squatting noise. Squatting position, right? So Joe Biden getting into position here. Joe Biden with her covering her mouth like in horror. So Joe Biden meets the president of France, says hello, goes back, gets into squatting position, okay? And then Jill has to like cover her face and be like, right? There you go. And then now Jill's right back to babysitting a Biden across the ocean. And again, global warming is real, okay? Reminder, global warming is real, okay? So how much of a crime family operation is this? Witness intimidation is something that is regular and prevalent in a situation like this. You would assume that the family members would be using their leverage and manipulation to try and coerce specific types of testimony to go easy on Hunter Biden, and that's exactly what happened. Apparently, Joe Biden visited Hallie Biden just days ago. Here we go.
Hallie Biden took the stand. She's Beau's widow, who Hunter had an affair with and got her hooked on crack. Key witness in the case. She's the one who tossed Hunter's revolver in the trash can. Joe Biden paid her a visit before she testified. Did he get what he wanted?
So why would this even be allowed? Like Jill Biden to be there as an intimidation witness in the court? Joe Biden to be able to go like person to person in these witnesses? Aren't there rules against stuff like this? I don't know. I'm no lawyer. Hallie Biden did testify, though, all day yesterday. She testified that Hunter Biden got her addicted to crack. So not a great guy.
Hallie Biden was on for several hours today. She was off the stand by the afternoon. And tomorrow, the prosecution only has 2 more witnesses before the defense takes over this case. So it's possible we could have a verdict by early next week because the defense will put on some case. We just don't know what yet. That's Hallie Biden walking confidently out of the courthouse this afternoon. The sister-in-law of Hunter Biden, but as you mentioned, also the ex of Hunter Biden. She was married to Hunter's brother, the late Beau Biden, who died in 2015. She and Beau have 2 children. After he died, she and Hunter were in a romantic relationship in the middle of his drug addiction, an addiction that eventually became her addiction, she says. She testified that sometimes she met with Hunter while he met with drug dealers. She told jurors in 2018 she visited Hunter at a hotel in Los Angeles and she began using crack herself. Hallie called this time in her life terrible. She said she was embarrassed and ashamed.
A reminder that your first lady has a post up on X right before the 2020 election to talk about putting decency back in the White House. Now, last time I checked, and I'm not 100% on all of these details, but last time I checked, none of the Trump kids have been caught doing crack while sleeping with their dead sibling's widow, getting them addicted to crack, and then committing numerous federal felonies, including but not limited to sprinkling cocaine on your gun that you illegally purchased. That may just be me. Jill Biden, decency is on the ballot. Just a reminder. Decency is on the ballot. Okay? Yeah. Judge a man by his children. Really, it's a very, very sharp and easy way. It's a very quick life hack way to figure out who's lying, right? Judge a tree by its fruit, says Jesus Christ. Okay. So Hallie Biden, the widow of one Biden son, the lover of the other Biden son, the crack addict mom, and she's like a mother of 2 children. You get the mom of 2 children, the single mother of 2, the widow of 2 children addicted to crack. You're a great person, really. What a great family, in fact. How did Joe Biden allow all of this to happen? Oh, who knows? Maybe he was approved. Maybe he approved of it. Maybe he was too busy reading Ashley's diary. Remember the good old times. We're not sure, but we do know that there is for sure video of Hallie Biden taking the firearm and throwing it into the dumpster, and it was played for the jury. The number of federal crimes here that are being committed are hard to really enumerate, but, we'll just begin by saying don't do this ever, right? If you do what Hallie Biden's about to do on camera and just throw a gun into a dumpster, you will never, ever see the light of day again. You will be in jail forever. Like, don't do it, okay? But here's a practice in privilege from the Bidens. Let's go.
In late October 2018, and this is the month when the alleged crime happened, Jesse, she says that she saw Hunter. She went to clean out his car to see if there were any remnants of alcohol or drugs, and she found a gun. This is surveillance video of her allegedly throwing out that gun in a trash can near a local grocery store here in Wilmington, Delaware. A man later found it. He was looking for cans to recycle in the trash can, and he kept it in a sock until he turned it over to police. Hunter allegedly lied on a gun form on October 12, 2018. Days later, a flurry of text messages between Hunter and Hallie. Hallie texting Hunter, "Police coming to talk to me now. I'll take full blame. I don't want to live like this anymore. This is too much for me to handle." Hunter replied, "The expletive FBI, Hallie, it's hard to believe anyone is that stupid." That was just one of several text messages between the two in October 2018, and that's the month when this alleged crime happened.
So, great people, smart people. So important for you to know that these are the individuals running your government. Your government operates on a basis of institutional trust. Do you trust the FBI? Do you trust the justice system? Do you trust the office of the presidency of the United States? Do you trust your elections? Do you trust your FDA? Do you trust the CDC? Do you trust the NIAID? That's, of course, the National Institute of Infectious Diseases that Dr. Fauci ran. Your answer to all of those questions were probably no, and hell no on hockey stick. And that's just fine. Those institutions have not earned your trust, because trust is something, of course, that is earned, not given. But also, they have done everything they can to possibly betray your trust. Now, when you have somebody like Hunter Biden, who's talking in that text message about the FBI coming after him, and then nothing happens to Hunter Biden, even though he and his dead brother's widow that he was banging broke innumerable laws, and nobody goes to prison, and nobody goes to jail, nobody gets charged with anything. By the way, this was 2018. This was all happening under a Trump justice system. Now, this isn't a knock at Trump. Trump is a very, very busy guy. It's not like this was like the number one thing Trump was following. This was probably kept from Donald Trump. Donald Trump's justice system and the FBI was so corrupted, even under a Republican president, that they were able to stop charges from being brought against these people. When you, again, would spend the rest of your life, they would throw away the key. They'd melt the key down, make a little necklace out of it, send it to you in prison, and say, you're done, right? You're done. Your illegally obtained firearm, you sprinkle a bunch of crack and coke on it, film yourself doing the crack and coke, throw it into a dumpster next to a school, blame a bunch of Mexicans on it, which they did, lie to the police, lie to the FBI. Dude, you're in jail forever. The Bidens didn't even see charges until nearly 8 years later. You know, the year is 2024. So what's going on here? And why haven't these people been charged? And it leads us to like another big question about their next star witness, which is Jim Biden. You know, the more you read through Hunter Biden's laptop, you realize that Jim Biden was kind of like the firm hand behind a lot of these business deals. And it wasn't that firm. You know, Jim Biden is a true criminal. But there's only so many hours in a day, and you have to have somebody who's actually like pushing this stuff. And it was Jim Biden who was the one who was really driving these operations. Jim Biden, for instance, is somebody who was driving a huge Medicaid and Medicare fraudulent Ponzi scheme here in the state of Florida that ended up with a bunch of hospitals closing down, got him federally investigated, pushing a bunch of like little children and grannies in the red state of Florida, like to the curb, defrauding foreign investors. All of this happened right here on the red state, on the red soil of Florida. Now, where the hell is Ashley Moody? Marco Rubio will be joining us soon. I'm going to ask this question. Where's Ashley Moody, our secretary, our attorney general here? Or better yet, where's the district attorneys in the state of Florida opening up investigations into Jim Biden? These are crimes that he did on our soil. And I won't stop. We won't stop asking this question until Jim Biden is dragged into a hot, swampy courthouse in the center of Florida, in a Trump plus 50 county, with a Trump donating judge, staring down a jury filled with people waving little American flags with buffalo horns on, or and MAGA hats, right? And a huge dip in, a zin, right? And every one of them sitting back listening to Jim Biden explain why he defrauded and shut down their local hospital and stole their money and destroyed their healthcare system. And then Jim Biden needs to be charged and spend the rest of his life in prison in a hothouse jail cell with no air conditioning in a very mosquito-infested part of the Everglades. Can you tell I've thought about this? This needs to be then a message to the Bidens and to every Democrat that we're going to play by the same rules. Nonetheless, I'm going to continue to push for that. This audience, I read the comments, read them right now. The audience seems to like this plan. We have some considerable sway in the state of Florida, a lot of powerful people coming on this program, and we're going to continue to push for that result. Why not do it? Did your balls fall off, as the Joker would say? You can figure out a way. Charge them. Bring the charges now. Do it. Jim Biden, apparently, we know where he's going to be. He's going to be testifying in Delaware.
Also to note that James Biden, the president's brother, also known as Jim Biden, Hunter's uncle, who did some business deals with Hunter, he is expected at some point to be called as a defense witness, maybe even as soon as tomorrow. We just don't have the list from the defense quite yet. They will announce tomorrow, though. Jesse.
So what's the plan to defend Hunter Biden? How do you defend the guy? You have the DNA, the crack residue, the video evidence. You have the police reports, Hunter Biden blaming the Mexicans. We keep saying that. It's not like we're not trying to be pejorative here. We're not trying to smear the guy. According to the police report, he literally says, "Oh, look, there's some Mexicans. It was probably them." He did it in the police report. It's been published. Hunter Biden saw it, and it's incredible. According to the police report, he says probably some illegals. There it is, highlighted right there. Probably some illegals. Maybe it was them that did it. Copper. Look, 2 Mexicans. Aren't they scary? Look, go get them. Go. Okay. Haley, grab the crack pipe and run. That's what he did. So what exactly is the defense for this guy? Let's have a listen. Here's some insight into what we may hear today into next week.
Foresee coming, they apparently will rest their case maybe as early as tomorrow?
That's just the prosecution. And then Abby Lowell will get stuck into creating the sob story about Hunter Biden and his drug addiction and his family tragedies. Look, I think it could work with the jury. They only need one to hang the jury. And Abby Lowell has this very complicated theory that says that Hunter Biden, in his mind, did not regard himself as an addict in that moment that he signed the gun form.
Cool. So my wife's family's from Delaware, and they've been in Delaware for a very long time. It's like 3, 4, 5 generations. And so what exactly do the people of Delaware think about this? Are they convinced? Joe Biden has ruled over that state like a little Kim Jong-un tin pot dictator, and the Biden crime family is trying desperately to maintain their relevance. It was supposed to be Beau Biden who took over the reins, right, and continued to rule with the iron fist. And Beau Biden tragically died, not in Iraq, but he did die of a brain tumor. We only say that not as a knock. I'm not trying to be mean or anything. It's just that Joe Biden regularly commits stolen valor is what it's called. Stolen valor. So when somebody who didn't serve in the military wears a uniform, right, tries to get extra money or something. Somebody tries to claim that they served and they didn't. Or tries to claim that they were injured or something, and that injury never happened. and pull at the heartstrings. This is what Joe Biden does. He does stolen valor with his son, Beau Biden, saying that he was killed in Iraq when he wasn't killed in Iraq. And so it's important to separate that, because that's a really serious issue for people. And you should never, ever commit stolen valor. You should never do that. It's a repulsive thing. What do the people of Delaware think about the Bidens in this trial? Are they happy about it? Are they excited about what's going on? Jesse Waters went to the streets of Wilmington, a city in total decay and decline and collapse, and asked. And here's what he found.
Where's Hunter? I don't know where Hunter is.
I don't know. He's over by the beer.
Down the street. In court. If you were on the Hunter Biden jury, would you find him innocent or guilty?
Guilty. Guilty for lying. I don't like nobody that lied. I don't think it's a big deal, really.
Did he kill anyone?
No.
He's innocent.
Guilty, but I guess if they pay me enough, he's innocent.
Pay them more. Hunter's in court for lying on a gun form. If you lied on a gun form, what would happen to you?
I would be in jail pronto.
I'm going to jail.
He's in jail. Locked up.
I would go to jail.
I don't know. I never lied on a gun form.
You'd be in jail.
But Hunter said he didn't want the gun. When he went into the store, the salesman forced him to buy it. Do you believe that?
Could you imagine me saying that? I got a gun unconsensually.
When you catch me with my hand in the cookie jar, I got to tell you something.
They try to get their money.
When was the last time someone forced you to buy something?
Earlier with my spring rolls.
Show me the money!
So, one, massive fan of Jesse Waters' Man on the Street segments. This is how Jesse Waters got his start at Fox. He was the Man on the Street guy for Bill O'Reilly, so it's very interesting. Career trajectory for Jesse Waters. We're a fan of his show and obviously a fan of his segments there are very entertaining. Well done. So, the people of Delaware really don't have time for this drama. Delaware is a state that is in financial collapse and has some deep crises that they are experiencing right now. And so this distraction and this proof that you pretty much live inside of an oligarchy or kleptocracy with the Bidens at the top, this trial is just effectively demonstrating all of that. And also demonstrating kind of the banality of the Biden family and how cruel that they are. Or it's not just to the people of Delaware, but to the people who are affected by their lives. Remember, the excuse for Hunter Biden in front of federal authorities was, hey, look, there's some Mexicans. It was probably them. That was the excuse. That's in the police report. Yeah, sir, but the crack on the gun matches your DNA. Oh, yeah, but it was probably the Mexicans, right? Got it? Got it, boys? Let's just do it old school, right? This is what's in the report. Not the first time Hunter Biden did that, by the way. Hunter Biden blamed Africans for getting him kicked out of the Navy with crack. If you're a listener of this show regularly, you'll know this, but these are the little things that only we read through and investigate and actually pick up. Hunter Biden, when he was kicked out of the Navy for crack cocaine, blamed it officially on two Africans that he bummed a cigarette from. Yeah, it's a great family. Great family. Hunter Biden was on crack when he impregnated a stripper and then had a daughter with that stripper. For the first 5 years of that daughter's life, that young little girl's life, her name's London Roberts. Her name's Navy Joan Roberts. Her mother is London. Joe and Jill Biden refused to acknowledge her existence at all. Never spoke with her, never communicated with her, never talked with her, and would hang stockings by the White House fireplace for the dog, for the German shepherds who are ravenous, who bite every single person they see. Again, the dog is the reflection of the owner. I mean, look at the children, look at the animals. How do the animals behave? How do your animals behave? How do your children behave? That's a really good reflection of who you are. Okay? That's just a good bite. So Joe Biden's dogs are out here like velociraptors, sinking their teeth into just absolutely anything that moves. And Joe Biden's kids are getting their dead brother's widows addicted to crack, right? Lying about it, sprinkling coke on their guns. And then Joe Biden himself is reflecting his the timber of his personality by never speaking with his biological granddaughter. Well, now that mother, London Roberts, is doing a bit of a publicity tour. She's written a book. That book will be out later in the summer. And she gave her first exclusive interview to Piers Morgan. Now, this is the woman who had to sue Hunter Biden and take him to court in order to get him to like pony up and to take any type of responsibility for this child. And this is also, and most importantly, the person who would be able to generally explain the moral fabric of the Biden family since she's had to live it in real life. And what was that experience like? Here we go.
Have you ever heard from either President Biden or the First Lady directly?
No.
Not a phone call or a letter or anything?
No.
Do you find that surprising?
No. No, I don't really. I feel like that's something that, you know, they've waited for Hunter to step up before they step into.
Would you like the president, if he's watching this interview, what would you say to President Biden about potentially meeting Navy at some stage?
That door is always open. Always has been and always will be. I know that there's been a lot of toxic legal action that's been around Navy and litigation, and I feel like that door is open, and you know, that toxic litigation is gone, and I hope never has to come back, and to be on the same playing field moving forward.
So Joe Biden never even called. Got it? Never even called. A stocking for the ravenous, bloodthirsty German shepherds hung over the hearth in the White House, but not for the daughter, their biological granddaughter. Is that enough to show you? Is that enough to show you the actual moral timber of these people? Is this enough? You guys seen this? We did ask for it earlier in the program, and I would deign to not show you this incredible side-by-side here of Joe Biden as the puppet from Jeffrey Dunham and his comedy routine. It's just perfect. It's just perfect. The puppet's name is Walter, okay? And it's just incredible. If Joe Biden put on a bow tie, it'd just be a pure ringer. Look at that. This is amazing. No Photoshop. That's just a direct shot from the interview that we played you earlier. Wow. Wow. I mean, way to go, ladies and gentlemen. It's something that I suppose would be the expression of Joe Biden. Were Joe Biden to fully comprehend how bad he is doing right now in the polls, fully comprehend the backfire that is occurring across the country. And perhaps this is the expression that Joe Biden had when he looked at the recent reporting that my next guest was just delivered a vice presidential paperwork vetting from the Trump campaign. Let's not beat around the bush or not talk about the elephant in the room, ladies and gentlemen. The elephant on the ticket, the GOP ticket, will be Donald Trump at the top. Will the next name followed be Marco Rubio? Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, will be our first question to Senator Marco Rubio, who joins us live now. Senator, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining our program. Congratulations. It's been a big week.
Well, I mean, every week's a big week these days in our country, unfortunately, in some cases. But yeah, let's see what next week brings.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So I want to begin by saying, your name, again, hit the news feeds, and it's been a regular occurrence for the last couple of months. A lot of little birdies coming on our program, talking you up. And I suppose want to get your response to the news about you being vetted this week. Any updates there?
Yeah, I don't have any update on that. I mean, I keep reading these articles. I imagine, between now and the day that the President Trump picks somebody, you'll see more and more of these. But I've been through this once before, back in 2012. So I would just tell you the best advice I can give everybody is there's going to be a vice presidential pick. It's going to be made by one person on the planet. His name is Donald J. Trump. And I would leave it to them to sort of make any comments. And if it isn't coming from them directly, I wouldn't believe it. It's not like the mainstream media in America or NBC News or anybody else has special connections or insight into that campaign. So look, it's they're going to make a great choice. I think the more important thing that I point to is if you look at the list of people, like who is that comparable list in the Democrat Party, right? They don't have one. I mean, you just think about, there's 8 people out there that you would look at and say, oh yeah, they could be president, they could be vice president. That's the number one qualification for it. I mean, the Democrats, if Joe Biden were to somehow try to sit in some imaginary chair, hypothetically, and fall and not be able to be president, who would take the place on the ballot people keep talking about? Is it Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, who's destroyed a once great state? I mean, who is we've got like 12 people out there that could serve in that role as vice president. So I think it's a blessing as a Republican to have so many good people, but I leave it to the Trump camp. I'm not trying to be evasive. It's just that it's their process and it's his decision. So I'll let them talk about that.
Of course, and to be quite frank, Senator, we get tired of asking the questions because we know there is one man who makes this decision, and it'll be made around convention time, is what we've been told. And so, you're just, especially with the news cycle this week, you're deigned to ask about it. And I guess the other question that regularly comes up would be a constitutional one about residency, and how would that work? But apparently your office has an answer on that.
Well, no, I mean, the answer, is basically, Florida, for example, if you pick 2 people from Florida, because he's a Florida resident, you can't, Florida's electors would not be able to vote 2 people from Florida, and so like Dick Cheney had that issue because he lived in Texas, and so he moved to Wyoming. And so Hillary Clinton moved to New York. She never even lived in New York to be senator there, right? So there's politicians have been doing that for time to time. It's actually a relic of I probably know more about this just because I've been asked about it so many times than I ever thought I would know. But the key to that is that, basically somebody on January 7th or whatever the day is in 2025, some Democrat could stand up and challenge the electors from Florida unless one of those 2 people, probably, but I guarantee you there will be challenges when Donald Trump wins, and it won't just be on that. I mean, there are some Democrats already openly saying that he's an insurrectionist and he shouldn't be allowed to stand for office, and those votes should be disqualified. Same people tried to get him kicked off the ballot in a couple states. So I think that's a resolvable issue, but I don't think that's going to be a factor in who he picks. And like I said, I don't know who he's going to pick. I don't think anybody on earth knows who he's going to pick except him. It's his decision to make, and he'll make a good one. I'm pretty sure that because he's got a lot of good people to pick from.
That's right. You bring up such an interesting point about there being no bench on the left. And it just, since we're on this topic, and I want to move to a bunch of other news, but since we're on this topic, there doesn't seem to be anybody that really piques any interest or even has any type of intellectual stimulation going on the left. However, were this pick to be you'd have to sit across from somebody in a vice presidential debate who would potentially say a comment like this to you.
When we talk about our children, I know for this group, we all believe that when we talk about the children of the community, they are the children of the community.
They are the children of the community, Marco. I think it's a profound statement. It's about as profound as this. Just one final nugget of wisdom that you may hear at a vice presidential debate right across from you.
We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but just limited to what we have seen.
So how would you, Senator, be able to, raconteur with such wit?
But it'll be hard to address what's been addressed and which has been said and has been said now, whether it's been said or not. So, it'll be difficult to address the unaddressable in an addressable way. And we'll have to work on that, I guess. Is that pretty good?
I feel like it'd be a very Austin Powers like mind explosion, because if you hit Kamala Harris with a rhetorical flourish like that, I think the circuits would all fry. I think we'd, and
people would just say, okay, switch the channel. So, but I think your broader point about the bench, look, it was like we've always had people in America that want to higher taxes, more government. I mean, that's the traditional 80s, even 90s liberalism versus conservatism. And that's an ideological debate, and it happens all over the world, and it's happened in this country. But what's happened over the last 20 or 30 years, I always assumed, right up until very recently, that everybody agreed this was a great and fantastic country. Our history isn't perfect. It's just better than anybody else's. It's extraordinary. Like there's no comparison. There's no comparison to America in the history of mankind. 5,500 years of recorded human history. Okay, nothing like it when you add it all together. It's very special. And I assumed everybody sort of agreed on that premise. And yes, there were some Marxists on the far left that argued America was this terrible place that needed to be rebuilt and destroyed and rebuilt, but that was on the fringes. And I think what perhaps we didn't all, certainly it took me, to my surprise, time to fully realize is how embedded in the mainstream that fringe idea had become. Now, not always openly, but how. And so what happens is that's now become, maybe not, it's certainly, I don't think it's the majority of Democratic voters, but I think it's certainly the majority of people with power and influence in the Democratic Party, seeing it play out, whether it's in Hamas or everything else. And so if you want to rise in Democratic politics, you must come from that line of thinking, or at least be acceptable to them. And I think that knocks out a lot of people that could potentially be a candidate that appeals to the broader group of Americans that have things like common sense and love America. And so I think it's really become very difficult for someone in the Democratic Party to rise unless they come from that universe. In the case of Joe Biden, that's not been his history. But I think actually Joe Biden is the perfect president for people that view America as evil and needs to be dismantled, because he has no political base, and clearly, he's in rapid decline. So it's perfect for them, because then, the less powerful, the less on top of it the president is, the more the people underneath him at the career bureaucracy and staff and everybody else is making the decisions, the more powerful they become. And so he's had to populate his White House and his administration with people from this fringe that now become the mainstream on the left. And to them, he's perfect. He's the perfect cutout. I mean, because they don't have to worry about a president saying, "Hey guys, maybe this goes too far." He's just going to read whatever index card they hand him, right down to the instructions, like pause.
So it does, whenever we do debate shows, it does cause us to pause and reset the table. And we just did this last night with a Piers Morgan hit with a bunch of panel libs. Like, this isn't normal, actually. And what's the idea that you're going to put a leading presidential candidate in prison 5 months before the election? That's no tradition that anybody shares in this country. For 250 years, not Republican, Democrat, Green Party, or Independent, nobody's ever done that. And that's actually a tradition that's totally foreign to our system, which is Stalinism and Marxism, where you lock up your political opponents out of sheer brunt force of power and your inability or lack of desire to allow the will of the people. And you and your family have a history with that in Cuba. And so many people in the state of Florida and potentially around the country have a history with that style of totalitarianism and Stalinism. And I have a two-part question for you. One, how would you reach those people? Because those people don't want that system here. I think that's like there's a very clear binary, Senator. You speak with any immigrant, whether it's first or third generation, they don't want that system to come to America, yet here we are. And then two, how do you encourage your Republican colleagues to stop having these good faith arguments on the merits of this, because there is like a moment where you kind of pull the switch and you're like, no, what you've done is not American.
Yeah. So these are political trials, right? And so when you come from countries, you were born in a country, raised in a country, fled a country that had political trials, you recognize them. You recognize them before the people in politics recognize it. So I don't think we need to reach them as much as we just need to be there for them to reach us, because I think people have come to that conclusion. It is them. It is from them that I have gotten this idea that this is comparable not just to what you saw in Cuba after Fidel Castro took over, what you saw in the Soviet Union for a long time, but what you see in many other parts of the world where political trials are normal, they're accepted. I mean, one of the reasons, I say this to you, someone who's very involved in, for example, the Western Hemisphere, one of the reasons why so many of the people who get elected president in these countries do everything possible to stay in power, like, for example, try to change the Constitution so they can run for re-election, is because they know that once you're out of power, what usually happens to former presidents in those countries that the other side takes over is not that you go open a library or go on a speaking tour. It's that you get put on trial and go to jail. So they don't want to leave power. So political show trials are very common in dysfunctional republics and democracies around the world. And people who come from those countries recognize it and they don't like it. And there's no other way to describe what's happened here. In terms of what you just said about this is not being normal, look, we can talk about them crossing the line, but I think we have to understand at the core of it. When Obama gets elected in 2008, reelected in 2012, these people who want to dismantle the country, they legitimately believe that this whole notion that America is exceptional and great is a myth. It's a myth. In fact, America needs to be fundamentally dismantled and rebuilt into something else. Those people believed that finally they had the majority they needed in American politics to put their plans in action. And they begin waging war on every aspect of our traditional life. And then Donald Trump happens. And they go into complete meltdown mode. And you can see it almost from the minute he takes office. I remember, right after he's elected, I mean, there's these women that look like, time travelers from the 60s, images of them in the streets screaming, men walking around with, on these weird signs saying obnoxious things and so forth. Just, it seemed almost unnatural. You could tell almost from the beginning there was something else behind this. And what was behind it is Donald Trump interrupted and stood in the way of what they thought was now an inevitable and irreversible permanent change in our demographics, in our politics, and therefore in our direction. And now they will do anything. There is nothing they will not do to keep him from running for office. And what they're counting on is Republicans who basically want to continue to be considered good, decent people, normal Republicans, as they like to say. There are a lot of people that want to keep that membership card to that club. And that's what they're counting on. But the bottom line here is, and I think the president said it really well the other night. I think it was Sean Hannity's show asked him, do you plan to go after them? He says, no, I don't. This has to stop. I think that's exactly the right answer. This has to stop. They are the ones that have unleashed lawsuits to bankrupt him, 4 indictments to try to put him away, force him to stand trial before a judge that donated money to Joe Biden into a Stop Republican, Stop Trump effort. I mean, that is a de facto you must get off the case almost anywhere. This guy has not one case, but multiple cases involving Trump before him, and then give these ridiculous jury instructions. So we can get into the micro of how unfair that trial was. But I think if you step back and look at the big picture, from going to court to getting him kicked off the ballots, getting him, indicted 4 times, suing him, impeaching him twice, the hoax about him having been coordinating with the Kremlin to become an illegitimate president that took over. You just go back onto the court. It's unprecedented. No political figure in American history has ever faced that barrage of using the Congress, the courts, the media to target them and to prevent Americans from being able to elect them president of the United States. So I think we have to understand we're operating in a very different environment now with people and against people who will stop at nothing to get their project to dismantle and remake America back on track. They will stop at nothing.
So there's a final question here, and there does seem to be real good momentum heading into the general election. I think that Donald Trump's going to do excellent in the CNN debate. I think that things are going to solidify, and I think that Donald Trump could win 100 electoral votes. There needs, however, to be some type of reckoning with the lies that have been told to the American public. Just this week, we saw the FBI come forward and say, yeah, of course Hunter Biden's laptop's real. Yet the intelligence community got 51 experts coordinated by our Secretary of State to say it's not, and to lie to us. And many would call that election meddling in 2020 and election rigging. But that was done through the intel agencies. And you are a leader on the Intelligence Select Committee in the Senate. And there's been so many circumstances like that. There's so many examples of the intelligence agencies being weaponized against us, the American people. Could you speak to the broader? Could you just speak quickly to what can and should happen in the lead up to the election, and then perhaps afterwards for reform?
Okay, and it's actually worse than that. Okay, actually, the intelligence community, the actual official intelligence community at that time, was run by John Ratcliffe, and they basically came out and said, "I don't know what these people are talking about." The media and the public largely ignored them and instead relied on 50 former intelligence officials who basically take the fact that they were once in government and then use that, and the fact that they still have clearances, which in my mind need to be revoked, because to me what they did was abuse those clearances to basically imply. I mean, the worst thing you can say is imply to people, I know something, I can't tell you, but believe me, it's really bad. Okay? It's the worst thing you can do because you can't defend yourself against it. That's what these guys did. So you have 50 former intelligence officials, not current, so you couldn't fire them, who basically used the credibility or the standing that that former title gave them to say to the American people, this stuff looks classic disinformation, Russian disinformation oppo. This laptop must be fake. Okay, and there's a great video out. I think it was released a couple of days ago that goes through a bunch of this. The worst part about it, however, is that on the basis of these formers, despite the official DNI, the one who was in office at the time, saying this is not true, the media, Twitter, Facebook, and others as well, decided to black the story out. To the extent they talked about it, it was disinformation. And in many cases, if you posted or reposted the New York Post story, they would shut down your account or they would block the viewers from seeing it. So there was an active effort to keep that information from becoming widespread in the minds of Americans. And to the extent that it leaked out, it was defined on the basis of these experts. So it's even worse because they basically said, we believe the formers, not the current, because the current work for Trump and they're liars. I make this point everywhere. I don't know, because unfortunately, in America, people have a First Amendment right to say things that aren't true in the political sphere. They do it all the time. But I did this in a public hearing the other day. I do it all the time in our closed hearings. I tell the intelligence agencies repeatedly, the biggest threat to our intelligence agencies is the loss of credibility in the minds of a substantial percentage of Americans because of the actions of people that leave the agencies, go out and become political activists by abusing their title. Clapper, Brennan, all these guys that are there and then they leave and lower level people and then they abuse it. They go out and abuse it. And so now everybody, believes. And you know who it's really unfair to as well? These people, operators that are out there all over the world working at these agencies and embassies and tough places doing work, they don't care about any of this. This is not their thing. They're out there, like in many cases, frustrated they're not allowed to do more because they want to protect us against our enemies. But there's another group of people that sort of rise to the leadership of these agencies, in many cases appointed, they're not even career, who are thinking to themselves, I need to be popular among the right group of people so that when I leave, I'll get put on a corporate board. I'll be asked to be on the faculty somewhere and teach. I can monetize my years in service. And one of the things that gets you entry into that club nowadays is to be anti-Trump and to say he's going to be a dictator, he's a threat, he's a Russian asset. So it's very damaging. Very, very damaging what they did, apart from being outrageous. And yes, I think that collusion between these formers, who were liars, and the media to keep that story from the American people in the month preceding the election interfered and influenced the outcome of the election. If that story had been widespread, I think you could argue thousands and thousands of people would have voted very differently. The election may not even have been very close, but we'll never know because they worked to keep that from them.
Yes. We really hope that there's nothing getting cooked up for the next 5 months. It seems like all the trend lines are going in your direction. And I guess as a closing note here, do you see the problems with America as spiritual? Do you see it more as spiritual than political?
I think, well, I don't know what you mean by spiritual. I think what you're saying is, I think at the core, look, there are a lot of people are going to, listen, let me separate it this way. There are a lot of people that are going to vote because life was better under Trump. They may love the way he used to speak. They may not like some of the things he says, but they say to themselves, when he was president, I had more money left over at the end of the month. The world and our country was safer and America was respected, around the world. And today, all three of those things have been in rapid decline. I think that's at the central core of how many people are going to vote. I think at the core of the election is the bigger question about our identity as a nation. Are we truly, as some of these people argue, this inherently evil country founded on racism and genocide and bigotry and xenophobia? Or are we this greatest nation in the history of the world that's worth not just preserving, but expanding to even higher greatness and to continue the work of progress, which has been the American experiment? That's the core issue of our campaign. Now, embedded in this challenge is that because of some of this craziness and lack of common sense, we have some deep cultural problems in our country which government can't solve. I mean, without strong families, without strong communities, without a clear sense of right and wrong and good and bad, we got big problems. You can make something illegal, but unless it's, and that's why, unless it's instilled at a young age. And so when you see things like, we have big problems in this country, but America remains, by all, historical comparisons, a pretty prosperous and free place for the average everyday person. We have 13 or 14-year-olds who are living in the freest, most prosperous nation in the history of the world. They don't have bombs being dropped over their head. And they're committing suicide and have rates of mental health crisis at record levels. We've got to get to the bottom of that. We have kids that are growing up, not coming out of poverty, coming out of middle class, even upper class homes, who they see somebody being assaulted, and the first thing they do is take a video of it and laugh, not like interfere and say, no, we can't do this. I mean, it's just thing after thing that's happening, and you realize that there's a deep rot going on at the core of our culture because we have destroyed, we have undermined, we have demonized many of the institutions that 5,500 years of human history taught us work. Family is important. Morality is important. We're not going to tell you what faith to belong to, but a faith that teaches you that human life has dignity and that you should respect other people and to care for the poor and the less fortunate and be compassionate and be forgiving and love your neighbor like yourself. These are positive. Why wouldn't we want movements like that influencing our culture and society? And instead, we've demonized them. So there's a lot to unpack there, and much of it is not the work of government, but it certainly sets the tone for some of this. And when government is waging war on those institutions, it makes it harder to cure that disease within the spirit of America. Not easier.
What a perfect answer. It rings like a bell. Senator, thank you so much for your time in this program. Thank you so much for your stalwart defense of American principles and for your vision of this country that so many have seemingly lost. And I think it'll be very inspiring next couple months. And we look forward to seeing you at convention.
Thank you. Good talking
All right.
to you.
Godspeed, Senator. All right, baby. Wow. Okay, man. What a incredible moment. I was really blown away by that last answer. Sometimes you're doing an interview and you're like, you know what? Like this guy gets they get asked a lot of policy questions and like, what about the border? And it's like, what about the actual real problems in this place? What about the spiritual rot at the center of this country? And what about people who wake up with no light in their eyes and with no spark in their soul? What about the strange vibe shift that's happened in this place? It's like such a different country than I grew up in the 80s and 90s. What happened? How did we become so nihilistic? How did suddenly nobody trust any institution? And it's worth asking those more human and profound questions about the bedrock of civilization and what creates a society if we wish to actually solve the problems that face us, which are spiritual in nature, far before they are of a modern political stripe. Far before you can look at any type of political or policy prescription on this stuff, you have to look at the deep root causes of why is there such a collapse in this nation right now? And if you wish to actually solve it, I think, ladies and gentlemen, a revival is at hand. It's been amazing to see. It's been remarkable to be able to have conversations like that and to push for what will hopefully be a nation-saving revival beginning in November 4, 2024, and saving this country for my children and for yours, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of saving this country, Donald Trump raises $12 million in America's most liberal city. How much money would Joe Biden raise in, I don't know, Tuscaloosa, Alabama? Like, how much money would Joe Biden raise in a dark red city? Probably not a lot. Yet here's Donald Trump in San Francisco, of all places, last night, raising $12 million. Which is pretty unbelievable. Amazing. It's former President Donald Trump raised $12 million in a high-profile tech fundraiser hosted by one of our buddies, David Sachs, right in downtown San Francisco. The sold-out event drew significant attention and was attended by some of the biggest names in the tech industry. Top tickets went for $300 a person, $500 per couple. VIP tickets were $50,000. And members of the host committee, sources told Reuters, the fundraiser was held at the mansion of venture capitalist David Sachs and his wife, Jacqueline, Pacific Heights neighborhood in the city, according to the invitation seen by the news agency. There were a bunch of protesters, but apparently there were actually more pro-Trump. This is amazing. There were apparently more pro-Trump protesters there, like outnumbered 5-1, than there were psychotic libs. Now, these things typically, it's frowned upon to be recording the whole time and have your phone out. So we have very limited video from inside of the event. Our executive producer, the great ALX, of course, would be able to have, oh, there you go. Okay. This is good. Okay. This might work. Would be able to definitely strip mine the internet, field strip the internet if we had anything really raw or amazing from inside of the event yesterday. We have some photographs, but we do have some interesting activity outside of the event yesterday. Why don't we pop this up? Here is downtown San Francisco. Look at this. Would you look at this? Downtown San Francisco. These are the people who showed up. I know exactly where that is. I know exactly where this is in San Francisco. It's the big Golden Gate Bridge Park. Look at this. Downtown San Francisco. I've not seen this footage. This is remarkable. Look at all the Trump fans in downtown San Francisco. I'll stop saying it. But wow. Just wow. I am blown away. You were talking about a Democrat district that is like cripplingly blue, that votes Nancy Pelosi in to insider trade. Their futures away. People who don't have, really any potential to do anything other than instructively and reflexively vote Democrat. I mean, this is the look. This is what it looked like. This is what the streets look like. And there's a Trump parade, even if it's like a miniature one, in downtown San Francisco. There's like MAGA faithful. And I say miniature. I mean, I'm just saying that there are normally tens of thousands, but there's hundreds of people with Trump flags in San Francisco. Man, mind blown. What a world that we're living in. Swing state polling coming in very strong for Donald Trump. Check it out.
These polls were done in Arizona, Florida, Virginia, and Nevada. The numbers indicate an erosion of support for the president among key groups. Take Virginia, which is not typically considered a battleground state, yet the president and former President Trump are in a dead heat there with 48% each. The president is still winning black voters in Virginia by 48 points in this new survey, but that's nowhere near where he was in 2020 when he won blacks by 81 points. In Florida, where reports show Republican voters outpaced Democrats by 900,000, Trump leads Biden 50 to 46%. In Nevada, President Biden is behind former President Trump 45 to 50%. Notably, the president is up by just 1 point among union households, traditionally a key Democratic voting bloc. This is a group, by the way, who won by 15 points 4 years ago. And in Arizona, Trump once again is ahead of the president, 51 to 46%. Voters in the Grand Canyon state see Trump as the better option on two of the biggest issues in the campaign, the border and the economy.
Oh, yeah, baby. Okay. Donald Trump neck and neck in Virginia. Dude, have you seen this polling? This is incredible. This polling shows that Virginia is now a toss-up. Virginia is now in the toss-up category. This should be a strong blue state. Virginia is probably in a toss-up category because of the recent election integrity measures that they've taken. Most likely. Like, because they now have like good, fair elections in Virginia under the leadership of Glenn Youngkin, who's done a very fine job there. Look at that map. What an incredible, the map's just being totally and completely expanded. How fraudulent these systems are too. Look at Illinois. How fraudulent these systems are. There should be a rule where you just have to, these blue cities get broken off or broken up in a different way. They should do like the electoral college. They should do an electoral college style for states like this, so that you can't have, like Illinois. Look at everything's red, and there's like one blue state. 20 points goes straight to the Democrat column because of a single hellscape city in Chicago. It's a single county, actually. Cook County is that one county wins it for Joe Biden. Just dumps 20 votes into the Democrat column. You want to talk about rigged systems? There's your rigged system right there. How many of those people are actually voting, right? Really makes you wonder. How many of those people knew that they voted? Yeah. So what happens next, ladies and gentlemen? Donald Trump did a big-time interview last night. It dropped it with Dr. Phil. And Donald Trump was asked about prosecutions and persecutions and his own persecution. We have no video footage of Donald Trump at the David Sachs events, but we do have the video footage of Dr. Phil interviewing Donald Trump. And this specific answer is really ping-pong balling around the internet. Would you actually lock up Hillary Clinton? Would you actually jail Hillary Clinton? Oh, it's from Newsmax. All right, ALX telling us. Newsmax. Okay, Donald Trump's been doing. Sorry, ALX. He's been doing so many interviews. He's been doing a lot of interviews. So after getting out of court, Donald Trump's been doing a lot of interviews. He also spoke at a massive Turning Point Action event yesterday in Phoenix on his way to San Francisco. Dude's been doing a ton of interviews, so my apologies to you. Hard for me to keep him straight. Thank you, executive producer ALX, for the check. Here's on Newsmax. Would you actually put Hillary Clinton in jail? You promised to do that. We know she's a criminal. What happens next? Donald Trump making a lot of news for this one. Let's go.
But, it's a very terrible thing. It's a terrible precedent for our country. Does that mean the next president does it to them? That's really the question. I said on a recent show that I did, a good show, good people. You would like these people, even though they're competitors. But I was talking about, when I'd mentioned Hillary's name, they'd all scream, lock him up, lock her up, lock her up. And everybody got a kick out of it and all. But I was at UFC the other night, as you saw, Greg, and I saw fighters that hated each other with a passion like you've never seen. For 3 months, they're just going crazy about how much they hate. And then the fight's over, and they're hugging and they're kissing in the middle of the ring. And I said, wouldn't it really be bad, with like, as an example, Hillary, with the hammering of her cell phones and all of the things she did. But wouldn't it be terrible to throw the president's wife and the former Secretary of State, think of it, the former Secretary of State, but the president's wife into jail? Wouldn't that be a terrible thing? But they want to do it. So, it's a terrible, terrible path that they're leading us to. And it's very possible that it's going to have to happen to them. But I personally thought, and I really did, I got a lot of credit from a lot of people. And some people said I should have done it. But, would have been very easy to do it. But I thought it would be a terrible precedent for our country.
We did an interview the other night, and it was Piers Morgan, and he's like, he thought he got me, I gotcha, Benny. And he plays this clip, because I call all these people Stalinists, and I say, you want to lock up your political enemies, you're all Stalinists. You're not Democrats, actually. Like Alan Dershowitz, the Democrat, like, you're a Stalinist. You're something totally wholly foreign to this nation, and it's evil, and I guess good on you for admitting who you are. And Piers Morgan, who I like, but he's like, oh, I got you, buddy. Let me play you this little clip of Donald Trump saying, lock her up, right? I'm so good at my British accent. And he plays this clip, and it's like Trump saying, lock her up. And I was like, where's this argument coming from? Like, how low functioning, low wavelength is this argument? Where Donald Trump, when he had no power and was just a candidate, would allow lock her up chants at his rally, or say, because you'd be in jail, to Hillary Clinton to her face. And then when Donald Trump has all the power of the state and federal law enforcement at his back, he decides that it'd be best for the country to not begin that perpetual cycle of revenge and violence. Like, that actually is the wise king. That's actually the wise leader. My staff's calling me Mrs. Doubtfire now because hello, because of my terrible British accent. I'm glad I don't have a good British accent. I mean, I don't care. Can go celebrate 4th of July right now. Don't care. Don't want a British accent. When Donald Trump had the power to put Hillary in prison, he didn't use it. That's the wise king. That's restraint. Because there's always that instinct, right? The banal human instinct to do that. When Joe Biden gets unified control of government and Democrats get unified control of government, they are throwing MAGA people in prison day and night, putting Donald Trump in prison as fast as they possibly can. The man spent 77 years on this earth with not a single indictment against him. And then suddenly he decides to run for president again, and then he has 94 different charges? Yeah, got it. So who's the tyrant? Again, like, show me the fruit of the tree, says Christ. Show me the actions. There's actually a parable about 2 different sons, and the father needed work done in the field, and the first son said he's going to do it, but didn't do it. And the second son says, no, I don't want to do that. But he gets up and ends up working the field anyway. And it's like, which son did the will of the father? And the response is, of course, it doesn't matter what you say. It matters what you do. These Stalinists are actually locking up their political enemies. And we should pay them back, right? Like, we should elect Donald Trump. We should prove that this tactic doesn't work here. Otherwise, I think we can expect this tactic to accelerate. Ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of something that is accelerating, I'm not sure if you've checked the stock market recently, but it's broken. The stock market this week, a bunch of stocks went completely flat. A bunch of stocks have been halted, and there's shenanigans going on. Shenanigans. They're entertaining, but it's shenanigans. I would vie for far more consistency, given the fact that I have little children and I simply want security. And that's why I invest in gold, ladies and gentlemen. You should go to my friends at Allegiance Gold. You should consider the same. We are entering some very tumultuous waters. Joe Biden's authorizing American weapons to strike inside of Russia. Not at the height of the Cold War would we have ever allowed this. This is suicidal. And this is something that's happening from a suicidal or totally disconnected generation. It's why people are buying gold so fast, because commodities are the things that you need to hold on to in times of war. And people see that right now. And there's chaos and uncertainty in every single market, except for the gold market, which has gone up at a steadier and more solid pace than ever in history, ladies and gentlemen. Go to protectwithbenny.com today. Call 844-66-BENNY. Right now, get $5,000 in free silver with a qualifying purchase. Protectwithbenny.com today. My friends, Allegiance Gold, take care of you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a salt that lib. We haven't done one of these in a hot minute here. We're gonna salt. What is Andrew McCabe, right? ALX. I'm gonna salt Andrew McCabe. Let's do it. So, Andrew McCabe whining and crying that there is going to be so many intelligence experts that are so many people from the intel community that will flee the country when Trump is elected. Well, what does that tell you? Are these people actually patriots? Are they just doing their job? Are they serving their democratically elected leader? Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The former assistant director of the FBI saying that the intel community intends on fleeing the country when Trump is elected. Again, what does that tell you about them? Salt this lib.
And he tells you that he's going to do something or he says something to that effect, you should take that very seriously. And look, am I concerned? I'm concerned for myself. I'm concerned for my family. I'm concerned for many of us who have spoken the truth about the danger that he is.
And the architects of the Russia hoax rushed to the cameras to say the FBI's scared.
It's terrifying. It's frightening.
I have a lot of conversations with former colleagues, people who are or were in the intelligence and law enforcement community and may have worked in, the Obama administration, other places. And, people are really trying to assess, what is life going to be like if Donald Trump wins a second term? And on a very personal level, these are torturous discussions with their family members about whether or not they have to leave the country to avoid being unconstitutionally and illegally detained.
Crooked FBI officials are considering leaving the country if Trump's elected? Let's get out the vote, people. This guy tried to stage a coup, got fired for lying, and he wants to be a hero so badly he's pretending he's going to seek asylum somewhere overseas. He's not going anywhere. He's just trying to scare the public into thinking the FBI won't be able to protect them.
Yeah, or rig the election. So let's prevent that, ladies and gentlemen, together. We encourage you to join the Benny Brigade on this program. It's how you can keep our show independent and make sure that we are live for as many hours and as long as we need to be every single day to cover the insane news that we were live for 7 straight hours, not a single commercial break last week. Still can't believe we did that, but it was necessary and important. If you join the Benny Brigade, you can submit questions to Ask Benny every single week. And ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Ask Benny from Denise Daniels. Will you hang your American flag upside down as a sign of distress for your country until Trump is back in office? I would rather the appeal to heaven flag. I'd rather the appeal to heaven flag. And I've been actually wanting to get a come and take it, a Gadsden flag, come take it flag, an appeal to heaven flag, and sort of cycle them out front of my home. I live in a very American flag waving neighborhood, and I think that some people might not actually see some people may not actually see the symbol as what I mean it for, and so I'm thinking I'm going to go. I think Denise, I'm going to go hard in on the Revolutionary War iconography of the appeal to heaven, or like a come and take it. I think maybe a Gadsden flag too. So this is what the appeal to heaven flag looks like. This is the sort of subtext here is Samuel Alito getting on the naughty list because he flew his flag upside down when his childless lib millennial neighbors who are living in their parents' basement started getting into fights with his wife. It's such a despicable story. I don't have time to get into it right now. But yeah, totally. You'll find something like this outside of my house. Right now, we do, of course, have our American flag up and always will have our American flag up. We have a Betsy Ross flag in the studio here, as you can see right behind us every single day. The old Betsy Ross. Michelle Corley asks, how can the case be found guilty? There is no crime. The judge's instructions assumes the crime was committed, so pick one. It's a dirty, illegal, unconstitutional. What's next? President Trump has no crimes in any case. Where is SCOTUS and our representatives in D.C.? Our representatives in D.C., I think, have been doing as commendable work as they possibly can, given the circumstances. The trick here, the wrench here, is that this was done in a state court. And so there are limiting principles and separations for good reason for that to happen. And I think the legal argument, and I've actually asked a number of our guests about this, but the legal argument here, Michelle, would be since Donald Trump is running for federal office, and since the underlying crime was allegedly federal here, then wouldn't the Supreme Court be able to see that as an open door to come in and fix this ruling against Trump? And that's actually a really great legal theory to push forward to get this taken out of state court, where they can sort of keep it in the backwaters, right, of New York, and bump it up federally, where you have a much cleaner system and you have a lot more rules, a lot more rigor. But it's why they tried all these little it's why they're going all these little state courts. And it's why they're doing it in all these little state courts, because based on federalism and the structure of the country and not wanting to have such a broadly oppressive federal diktat, right, on so many issues in our lives, they kind of like sit back and let every state make their own rules. And the rules in the state of New York, are that the judges have to recuse themselves. There are no like boards to oversee these things. That's patently insane. That should be patently insane. And then, that you have to effectively exhaust your appeals process there. But even through that exhaustion, it's going to take you a while to get into the federal system, right? Because you have to have an in, and that would be the in. That Donald Trump is running for federal office, and they're going to like abridge the rights of somebody running for federal office, and therefore the Supreme Court would have supremacy on that question, right? So hopefully that's the way it goes. But we'll see, Michelle. Thank you for your question. God bless you. Brenda Anderson asks, Trump should announce a VP pick before they force Nikki Haley in. They should also move the RNC date to before Trump's sentencing date. Maybe the 4th of July would be appropriate. I would love that. We're very close with the planners of the RNC convention. The problem is that these things are so complicated and really get run up to the wire on every single convention. And they're very shambolic and so many moving pieces. The idea of moving the convention physically up is impossible. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not here to give hopium or copium. Brenda, it's just impossible right now, because there's so many intricate pieces at work. I mean, you're shutting down effectively a large city in America, which would be Minneapolis. You're shutting the whole city down, right? You're like stopping everything in the city. And the room blocks and everything. I'm just saying, you could do a digital convention. You could do it digitally, right? And you could elect Trump. You could like elect Trump and have him do that digitally. And I've seen that pushed potentially. Did I say Minneapolis? Did I say Minneapolis? Ugh, gross. No, it's not in Minneapolis. It's in Milwaukee. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're still recovering. Okay, we had the fever earlier in the week. We're still recovering. So anyway, I mean, listen, if it was in Minneapolis, I wouldn't be going. I gotta tell you, I wouldn't be going. No way. I don't want to go. I don't want to go to a convention in Minneapolis. I think it was it in Minneapolis in 2008? Can somebody check that with me? Was the GOP convention in Minneapolis in 2008? Oh, baby. Wow. I think it was actually.
St. Paul, Minnesota.
St. Paul. Well, there you go. So the GOP convention was in Minnesota. How dumb is our RNC? How stupid is our RNC? It was in Minnesota? Like, did they win? Did the GOP win Minnesota? I mean, presumably that's why you do a convention there, right? Like, push in that state. So Milwaukee makes sense for Wisconsin. Jamie, who's spectacular, she does spectacular graphic design for us at our company. She lives in Milwaukee, and she's got a lot of really neat things cooking, but she's telling me that Milwaukee is way better than Minneapolis. She's lived in both cities, and that Milwaukee is far superior to Minneapolis. I cannot believe it, man. Yeah. So the GOP nominated John McCain and Sarah Palin in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Talk about doomed, baby. Talk about doomed. Okay, so yeah, Brenda, the one thing I do agree with you on is that there is a secret little there is totally a secret plan to get Nikki Haley as the VP. You're totally right. And ALX is saying it wasn't even close in the Minnesota election. Okay, so doing the event in Minneapolis didn't really pay off. Isn't that amazing? The GOP does some giant, big, dumb, expensive thing, and it literally gets us less votes. Look at these numbers. 54 to 43. Jeez. 12-point blowout for John McCain. What an embarrassment. Yeah. Okay. All right. Did Trump do better? Wow. Yeah. Trump did way better. Trump was within the margin of fraud. 46 to 44. And we know based on James O'Keefe videos, there's a enormous amount of fraud that takes place in Minnesota, thanks to mail-in balloting and to closed communities there, where you just pay for ballots. I wonder, how does Ilhan Omar get elected to Congress every single year? How's that possible? What's going on there? How's Ilhan Omar get back to Congress? She's like dumb and corrupt, and she married her brother, and nobody seems to like her. She gets booed on stage in her home district, just like AOC. Like, how does that happen? Oh, okay, yeah, got it. Maybe they have the whole system wired for people like that. Look at Trump, though. Man, Donald Trump, within a point of Hillary Clinton? Yep. Okay, got it. Dude, seriously. Did Donald Trump win Minnesota in 2016? It's a great question. Join our Benny Brigade, ladies and gentlemen. BennyJohnson.com. Go join the Benny Brigade. Our verse of the day. Let's kick the weekend off right. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life will find it. Matthew 16:25, a consummate verse about the purpose of life on this planet. And the purpose of this life is to effectively not lose it, like as in jump off a bridge, but to lose it in the sense that like you are giving over everything to God, and you are saying, nope, actually, I didn't create life. I'm not the creator. I'm one link in a very long chain. I'm not the end of the chain, and I'm going to give acknowledgement and honor to my Lord, Savior, and Creator, Jesus Christ. And that's how you actually live. That's how you actually gain life. And that's how you gain purpose. And so many other things get added unto that. But having that realization, having that flip switched, is something that happens to you in these profound moments. And it makes your life so much better. It creates such a better life for you. I cannot encourage you enough, ladies and gentlemen. Read your Bible, read it like a simple Christian. Just accept accept the words in there. Just believe the words in your Bible. That's it, and then you'll go live a very fulfilled and purpose-filled life. And all the nihilism and annoyance and fear that is projected from this current modern day tire fire, dumpster fire that we live in, that stuff won't affect you. And you can bound into your weekend confident and powerful and ready and at peace. And that's what's most important of all. Ladies and gentlemen, we wish you to have a great weekend in the greatest country on earth. And we say thank you so much for watching this program and for taking this journey with us. Can't defeat an army of happy warriors, and that's what we are here on this show in the Benny Brigade. It's your boy Benny. See ya.